What's up you guys, welcome back to my channel. My name's Jen and I am that props girl. And today we are doing something extremely exciting. I am interviewing a fellow designer. Her name is Rachel Baker and she is the set designer for Good King Wenceslas. Now you might remember last year in a couple of my videos I mentioned that I was part of a production called Good King Wenceslas, and it was an original production which was written by some members of the Grainery Church, and it was a Christmas show that we put on. Now, because of the pandemic, unfortunately, our audiences were a little bit affected. So we decided that this year we were going to do the show again. And so I am excited to bring you this exclusive interview with Rachel. And we're going to talk through how she designed and created the set for this show. It looked absolutely amazing and it is so exciting to be a part of it again. So if you do live in the Newcastle area, be sure to come and check the show out. This interview is full of great knowledge and wisdom when it comes to designing set. Rach is so absolutely incredible and it is my honor and privilege to share this with you today. So if you are keen to see this, then stick around. Be sure to smash that like button because it lets me know you want to see more content like this, as well as consider hitting that subscribe button and bell so that you don't miss a single one of my uploads. And with all of that said and done, let's jump straight into this video. You want to start by just telling us a little bit about yourself, Rach?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Rachel and I am a pastor at the Grainery Church. Got a husband and kids and we live locally in Newcastle. And yeah, I've had the wonderful opportunity of getting to be involved in the Grainery Theatre side of things, which has been really good.
And so was Good King Wenceslas your first show, production with Grainery?
Not my first one to see or for my family to be involved in, but the first production that I've been working on sets for. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's all looking amazing, and
it's getting there.
And I'm seeing some changes from last year, but we'll get to that. But last year when you were first asked to do the production, had you ever designed set before?
So prior to my job here at the church, I've actually been an interior designer for over 20 years. So for me, the idea of working with aesthetics and materiality and space and things like that have been sort of my everyday life for about 20 years, doing commercial hospitality design. So yeah, so even though set design is different, it's got a lot of the same sort of elements to it. So I've just been trying to adopt what I do now and play it by ear for the set side of things.
That's so cool. I think, obviously I'm more on the prop side of things, but and my design experience is more in theatre.
Yeah.
But there are so many crossovers between interior design and exterior theatre design, so I think the skills are so transferable and you've done an amazing job. So, I mean, you kind of touched on it there, but have you always been interested in design?
Yeah, it's always been part of my life. So even as a kid, you know, rearranging your room or giving other people advice for what to do. Always lots of advice. And as kids, I mean, the classic home play and theatre that you do. So I was always in charge of making the environment just right for those. So yeah, it's always been a love of mine.
I can 100% relate. When you were first, cast your mind back a long time ago, but when you were first told about the design concept for the show, did you have ideas immediately?
Yep.
How much free reign were you given?
Yep.
Let's talk about that.
So I'm good friends with Theo Brule, who wrote the play. Fortunately for me, because we've had an ability to sort of chat about theatre and art things, he did entrust me quite freely to do what I wanted. So there was discussion definitely at the beginning, some brainstorming, but for the most part, he sort of said, see what you can do, and yeah, gave me some free reign in that. After we sort of came up with some concept ideas, we regrouped and looked at it again just to make sure we were headed in the right direction. But yeah, for the most part, it was just sending him little updates and making sure he saw where things were headed and that he was happy.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And of it, the show is in medieval sort of style.
Yeah.
And how was it designing for that sort of era? Obviously it's very different to modern things that you've probably done in houses and all sorts of stuff. So
yeah,
was that fun?
Yeah, just fun. I mean, great. You can do lots of research, watch lots of great movies and look at other productions that have been done, which was a great, way to research for it. And I mean, if you love being creative, it's just another way to sort of express it and look for interesting things to do. Some of the little details that you get in those kind of old worldy piece things are more fun, you might say, than even the modern stuff. So a lot of little fun things that you don't often get to play around with.
Obviously this year the show is being staged again, so that's such a rare opportunity for non-professional theatre to do the exact same show again the following year.
Sure.
So what exactly has changed between the years? Like, did you see it last year and go, oh, I'd like to change that, and talk me through that?
Yeah, I think there were a few components that played into that. The first just being time. So as you're trying to create sets, I mean, none of us are professionals, and so there's a lot of kind of gathering help and volunteers to help with sets. So that meant that we couldn't accomplish maybe everything that was in my imagination, and so a second year round has meant that some of those little things that we never got a chance to get to we're being able to address this year, which is great. We also had an opportunity to watch back the previous production and watch through that and go, if we could make this better, what would we do? And so we're just working our way through that, and as many of the points that we can tick off, the better, because there's always ways to improve a production. There's always stuff that you might do differently that you learned from the first go around.
Exactly.
So we're just trying to take advantage of it and make this an even more amazing show.
Yeah, I think that that's a very good point. Like, I mean, because we're also working with the new work, and I mean, like, apart from our staging last year, it had never been done before, and it's the same with writing. I mean, you might hear a line and go, oh, actually I want to change that, and it's all part of the design process. So what was the biggest thing you've learned, I guess, that you can include last year and this year, like through this entire process? What do you think is the main takeaway and learning thing that you have embraced, I guess, or learned from?
Never be afraid of mistakes. Try things even if they seem wacky and wild. Most of the stuff that we've used for the pieces is completely unconventional. It's not sort of standard construction methods that we used. Come to the show and you'll see some strange things. You'll recognize it and think, isn't that this? And you go, yeah, it is. We weren't afraid to sort of push the envelope and try some different things, and for the most part they paid off, and I think have made us be a little bit more creative with how we look at what we can do.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think, like, I mean, that's something that I'm very big on as well, and I love using non-conventional pieces. And I remember, like, the first time last year when we saw the set concept pieces in the Zoom call that we had because we were in isolation. I remember looking at it going, that's going to be such a big undertaking, and you obviously took it under your wing and did so well. But what was cool for me as a designer was to see how you used non-conventional or not non-standard materials and things to make things on a budget and do things that were, as you said, like pushing the envelope and really different, but they paid off so well. And I think it goes to show that, like, you don't have to have a massive budget necessarily to pull off a very big set and show, and also have a really good quality about it. It didn't look cheap, it didn't look tacky, it looks really amazing, and that's the thing with like theatre, it's smoke and mirrors, and from the distance you can't tell anyway. So do you have a favourite bit or element about the set?
That's like choosing a favourite child. So I couldn't. No. I think my favourite scene overall has to be Under the Mountain. It was just a bit weird, and kind of got to play a little bit with that kind of fantasy side of like reality, which was really fun to do. Very outside of the normal. But I'd say the other piece that I really love is just how the trees interact with the space, and you'd have to see the production to know what I'm talking about, but the trees, I think just how they were incorporated into each of the scenes is really powerful, actually. I really quite like how that's turned out.
Yeah, and they looked fantastic, and I thought it was really clever, especially like with the white trees, and is it just like air conditioning vents that you use? Like, wow. Like, how did you come up with that idea? Did you see it somewhere, or?
Well, again, on a budget, makes you get really creative. And so I think I work with another Rachel that actually is employed here as well, and sometimes we would just wander around the hardware store or craft store or the dollar store and just keep your mind completely open, think about the scenes and the things that you need, and it's just sort of like, what can we find that's inexpensive, that nobody else has used quite in the same way, and like I said, being willing to try it. So for the most part, it was just getting creative with what we saw in front of us.
Yeah. And I do that too, and it's nice to hear it from another designer as well, that I'm also the person who walks around the stores and just goes, oh, that could be used. And
when somebody asks you what it is that you're looking for, and you say, I have no idea, but I'll know when I see it. So.
Exactly. So on sort of that budgetary thing, what is it like doing a show with such a tight budget?
Yeah, I think, like I said, just the fact that it forces you to be more creative.
Yeah.
You're not relying on things that you can just find that are ready to go. So you actually really have to use all your design brain muscles. But I often find the outcome is better.
Yeah.
Just because it's not just something that you see, any other place. It's always something that's quite original. And for me, it's also just really little details. I know that with theatre, you're quite far away, and sometimes you don't pick up on it, but I still feel like even if you can't see all the details within a detail, just the fact that you've added them makes the audience feel a little bit more assured that a lot of work's been put into it and actually adds to the overall feeling of the set. So
yeah. Oh, you're speaking my language. Yeah. Because I've done so many videos like on those sorts of things, and how much the details actually, I find, not just for the audience but also for the actors as well, it just makes you feel like you're there.
Yeah.
And no, it's so nice when someone else says it. I guess early on last year, and I mean maybe even now, did you ever have a moment where you like doubted it would ever come together at all? Like, I think everyone goes through that, especially it's probably quite daunting when it first started to be like, this is huge. And
yeah, I think as you start to sort of develop different pieces and you realize how long each component is going to take to create, you might have those definite panic moments where you think, oh, this is not going to come together. But yeah, I think you just kind of keep working your way through, and you have to be a little bit willing to be flexible for if something's not coming together quite as quickly as you need, to just sort of say like, okay, is this good enough? Can we move on to the next thing? And if there's time, we'll always come back and adjust. So sometimes it can be hard to let it go, but it's necessary at some point.
Yeah, and time management is so important. I guess obviously like you're one part in a big team of people, and the communication across teams is very important, and you're working quite closely with costuming. I guess like, how do you find working with all the departments and sort of where you fit and working as a team? Because I mean, I've worked on production teams where, it's separate and it's very difficult, and like how is the team going and how important is that, I guess?
Yeah, I think besides just the camaraderie that comes with being able to work in a space with other creative minds, because that actually helps feed your own creativity, even if it's separate projects that you're working on. When there's just that creative buzz in the room, it makes you more excited, and I think more able to sort of think outside the box. But Rachel, who was heading up costumes, she's brilliant to work with, and oftentimes it would be the two of us that would go out to the shops and just muse and marvel at things together, which also meant that it was easier to kind of bring our pieces together. So we would have some of the same materiality maybe reflected in the costumes as with the sets, and I actually think it might be really subtle and might not be obvious to the audience, but it's things like that that's really tie the whole production together. And so I think that was a massive benefit of being able to work as closely as we were as teams through this production.
Yeah. Now, I like as a cast member, I mean, I definitely noticed that the pairing of set and costumes, which was really, really lovely to have, and there's nothing worse than having the clash. So how long, I guess, not including what you've done this year, so let's go last year, I guess, how long did it take you to, like, when did you start constructing and making things? To, obviously we finished showtime, so
that was
December.
Great question. We did a lot of random hours because my family is also involved in the production as cast. So there were weird moments where I'd come in and work on set pieces while they were at practice. So totaling it up is a bit of a mystery for me, but we probably started middle of the year last year with concept and pulling some things together. And as you'd know, it just ramps up towards the production where everything is just 100%. It's a bit of a wild mess, but so I'd say probably from development of concepts and things about 6 months prior, and then there's a slow trickle, and then the floodgates open. So, and
then adding on whatever you've done this year as well. So I think 6 months is fairly standard, and obviously you're not doing it full time. So. on a different topic, if you could design for like an era, not medieval, what would you design for?
Oh, I don't know. I used to ask myself that in like the interior design world. Try and pick what it was that, you know, I'd do if I could do anything. It's too hard. I love all design. But I do think that just something that is the furthest from real life that we can experience is always fun, because you're not actually relying on the familiarity of what you know. It's stretching you the furthest. So I think that would be potentially the most fun, to do something that's so far removed from anything I've ever experienced. Just gives you a bit more creativity and a bit more, you know, stretch, forces you to think a little bit more. So,
and so like, I mean, obviously this show was like the first sort of show that you've been, and again, but we'll count it as one show. So would you do it again? Design for a show?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I do enjoy it. For me now, it's just a awesome creative outlet that I have. Some nights drives me crazy, but that's actually part of the creative process. You can't go through it without that. And so of course, nothing would stop me from giving it another go.
All right, thanks, Rach. That was really
great.
My
pleasure.
And well, come see Good King Wenceslas.
It's gonna be great.
Thank you so much for watching. I absolutely had a blast with Rach. She is so full of wisdom. It was so cool to talk to a fellow designer who shares so many things that I've already shared with you guys on my channel, and it's just nice to talk with like-minded people. So if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave me a comment down below, and if you do live in the Newcastle area or the Hunter region in Australia, be sure to come and see our production of Good King Wenceslas. It is on from the 22nd to the 23rd at the Civic Theatre in Newcastle, and if you want to see me performing on the stage, that's where I will be then. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to smash the like button and consider hitting that subscribe button and bell. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.